Wars rarely begin with thunder. More often, they begin with whispers. A faraway border dispute, an attack on an ally, a crisis that someone else started, but that somehow, by the time the smoke clears, you are right in the middle. Empires, especially, are vulnerable to this. They have treaties, interests, prestige, and when they move, the world shakes. Take Rome, for example. What started as a small alliance with a tribe in southern Italy dragged the Roman Republic into conflict with Carthage, then into Spain, then into the Eastern Mediterranean. Each time the justification was the same. We must defend our allies. We must maintain the peace. We must strike first so they don't strike us. By the time the dust settled, Rome had gone from a republic to an empire, and war was no longer a policy, it was a habit. Centuries later, Europe in 1914 looked eerily similar. A Serbian nationalist assassinates an Austrian archduke. Austria attacks Serbia. Russia mobilizes to defend Serbia. Germany declares war on Russia. France moves. Britain follows. None of these nations wanted a world war. Each thought they were answering an obligation. But empires are entangled things. A tug on one thread pulls the whole fabric apart, and suddenly, the most powerful empires on Earth were sending millions to die in trenches over a murder in Sarajevo. The United States wasn't even part of the European alliance web. Yet by 1917, America was in the war, not because it was attacked, but because it couldn't afford not to act. German submarines sank U.S. ships. A secret telegram promised U.S. territory to Mexico, and public pressure mounted to join the war to end all wars. That war didn't end wars, it ended illusions. In the decades that followed, America would be drawn again and again into other people's wars. In Vietnam, to stop the spread of communism. In Kuwait, to defend oil and allies. In Iraq, based on weapons that weren't there. In Afghanistan, in response to an attack, but stayed for 20 years after the perpetrators were gone. Each time, the script was similar. We're not the aggressor. We're bringing stability. We'll be in and out. But war has a gravity. Once you enter its orbit, it pulls you in deeper. Empires, by their nature, sit at the center of global networks. Their trade routes stretch across oceans. Their alliances encircle continents. Their rivals are always watching. And so the empire cannot ignore a threat on the horizon. It cannot stand by when a partner is attacked. It cannot tolerate disorder in faraway lands because its own prestige is now tied to the illusion of control. And so, step by step, speech by speech, ship by ship, the empire moves. What began as caution becomes commitment. What began as limited becomes total. And by the time the war ends, if it ever ends, the empire is no longer what it was. Not in blood, not in treasure, not in the eyes of its people. So when a great power says it doesn't want war, listen closely. Because history shows us, empires don't always start wars. But once they're in, they rarely know how to stop. In the words of Churchill, the wars of people are more terrible than the wars of kings. And in the age of empires, all wars become wars of people. Thanks for watching and subscribe to Fault Lines for more cautionary history from a world that never stops repeating itself.